And welcome to yet another episode of Light Beer, Dark Money. I'm Light Beer, Chris Clements, and next to Sean Noble, Dark Money Man.
So I think you're really liking these intros.
Well, you know, it's early, and if we were to do this in the afternoon, I would not be as bright or as witty.
That's right. Okay,
I've had my workout, as you have, obviously.
Actually, I haven't yet. I'm going to work out after we're done here today. But maybe that's the key. Maybe we just need to start earlier in the day.
Yeah, I'm all for it. I'm a little bit brighter and bushy-tailed at 9 versus 3.
So my wife was watching our first episode, our intro episode.
The one where we just talked about ourselves?
Yeah. She's like, you have a very NPR vibe. I'm like, okay, well, maybe we need to be more energetic.
Is that like?
And she says, it's not a bad thing. It might be what people want. And I'm like, well, I don't know if it's what they want.
I think we're new and we haven't gotten our groove. We just finally got like some background stuff.
Well, and I think that for people watching, you'll see background, and then you're going to see an episode where there's not background because we actually put a few in the can and are now introing, which in this case. Go ahead and let you intro our next.
So today we have a really interesting individual named Corey Frank. He is one of the principals at the sales accelerator here at Canaan Ventures called Youngblood Works. What they are doing for a lot of the companies who are incubating here is taking over the sales functions of those companies and getting them to revenue quicker. And Corey's got a tremendous background in sales. Both online sales, face-to-face, I mean, anything that you could think of in terms of sales, this guy has done it. And has just an interesting take on where we are as business people, and what he's doing here is tremendous. They've grown from like 4 or 5 students. Now they've got about 20 people over there, and they are crushing it for a lot of the companies here.
Well, and the thing that was surprising, and you'll hear this when you watch the episode, is they don't have any churn. I mean, they've kept all the people they've brought in have stayed. I expected it to be a big turnover.
But. Yeah, I believe he said they lost 1 employee, and that was just because of another opportunity. It wasn't anything where they did not succeed in their goal setting. And if you're over there, they have everything on a board. Everything is tracked, which is great. And if there's a success, they set goals for the day, and if there's a success, everyone claps and hoots and hollers, and it's great.
Yeah, it's a great sales environment. Yeah, this was a great episode. I think you guys are going to love this one.
Yeah.
My name is Corey Frank, and I work with Kevin Youngblood and the team over at Youngblood Works, little accelerator that we have across 50 feet that way. So,
well, welcome back to Light Beer, Dark Money. I'm Sean Noble. This is Chris Clements.
Welcome,
and, Corey. Welcome. Glad to have you here.
Yeah, good to be here. Thanks for the invite.
You come with a bit of a reputation. I've heard stories about you about the insane amount of optimism that you have and how. What a great pitch guy you are. And, I'm in politics, and we have to pitch, so to speak, a lot. So I'm really looking forward to your insights on and your experience, that kind of thing. Because I think one of the things that people, to me, there's a lack of, there's just not enough great sales guys. People who know how to tell, sell their message, sell their product, whatever it is. What's interesting is that, I mean, obviously coming out of the beer industry, beer is very good at sales and messaging. But politics, you talk about sales and politics, and people start to cringe and like, oh no, but it's the same thing. I mean, I don't know. Yeah. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'd love your insight.
Well, you think about it, it's interesting, Sean, right? I mean, where do folks who fall into sales, where do they come from, right? There's no GMAT or LSAT or certification that's needed to fall into our profession, and probably similar to politics as well, right? Hey, steam the smear and be a silver-tongued devil a little bit, and read this little pitch document, and if you're photogenic enough, right, present company excluded, right? I mean, you can make a career of it, right? Perfectly coiffed hair, and so sales. I think it's interesting because how we fell into it, or what we're trying to do here at GCU with Kevin Youngblood and I, is can we take students, can we take sales folks who maybe haven't had the right blend of opportunity and organization and teamwork, and put them in a place where they can get solid messaging, they can get some coaching on what they say, how they say it, how to dress, how to do a firm handshake, how to make eye contact, what the books to read, how to journal, all this kind of finishing school type stuff. And does it make a difference for the clients? Does it make a difference in sales? And but to your point, Sean, yeah, where do folks go to learn what? Certainly, Chris, you come from a background of entrepreneurs, right, Sean, and from what you learned in your world. But where do we get it? Is it from the Zigs of the world and the Tony Robbins of the world? But it's a quest that I think folks should understand, that it is a profession that has science, right? The rules of gravity still apply to you, and it's not something that you should just take to heart, that your Aunt Edna pinched you on your cheek as an aiming or a kind of a blithering 23-year-old right out of school and say, you should be in sales, Sean. You got a great personality, and well, I guess I'll do sales or law school, right? How many of us faced with?
I mean, we clearly have too many lawyers and not enough sales guys. I mean, that's
or too many politicians, depending on your point
most
of view.
of them are lawyers.
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of the challenge. So, I mean, what you describe about what we're doing here at GCU seems to me that it is probably something different than what other schools are doing in their business environment. I mean, maybe they are doing it, but I have never. I mean, I went to ASU. Had experience with a number of different colleges, business schools, just interviewing kids that come out of business school. I mean, is this unique? Is this the only place that this is happening? I mean, how did you get here? Because this is a great service you're providing for
I don't know if it is. I think it's becoming more popular. I know there's Ohio University has a great sales school. I know Baylor University has a great sales school. Texas Tech. And there's a number of universities, I think, that are putting it more than just under their marketing program, under their just communications program, actually saying, hey, there should be a sales curriculum, and learn from the masters, the Jim Rohns and the Tony Robbins and the Zigs and the Oren Klaffs of the world, and that the study of biophysiology and why people do what they do, right, is it's science, and there's you look at, in a traditional pitch, for instance, right? We talk this to the folks over there as one of the kind of the building blocks, is that in a traditional pitch, whether it be a politician's pitch, I imagine the same thing for you, Sean, or an advertising pitch or beer pitch, is that you need 4 key elements. You need humor, intrigue, curiosity, but also tension. There's to be a fair amount of tension in there. And I think a lot of newer folks who fall into sales, they have such a need for approval, a high need for approval. They're used to getting the 7th place ribbons and trophies and things of that nature, is that they want to be liked more than they want to get the potential deal. And so incorporating tension doesn't mean that you're a jerk, doesn't mean that I'm overly aggressive, but I need to set a line of boundaries, and I need to be prepared to walk if those boundaries or that relationship isn't fulfilled. And so I think that's the biggest thing for a lot of folks, is that I can read the sales books, but putting into practice. And so what we've done here at GCU is to put it in practice, where we put them in a place which is the great equalizer. And the octagon of our day, right, is the cold call, is putting you on the phone, talking to strangers, and asking them for time, not necessarily money. And the fact that we can do that at scale, it turns these folks into deadly phone assassins in a very, very quick amount of time.
How talk about the growth? I mean, I've seen what's going on out here. It seems to me it's a pretty vibrant operation, but it didn't just come out of thin air, right?
A little bit from necessity is the mother of invention. I think it is that where Kevin Youngblood and I we started talking to, in my practice and in Kevin's practice, we work with a lot of newer organizations, pre-funded, Series A funded organizations. And oftentimes what we find in those organizations is they may have great solid product, they may have great financing, they may have a great pedigree of an investor or angel community behind them. But is there real solid product market fit? And what we continue to see is how are you going to go to market to determine that product market fit? And so one of the concepts that we use is looking at the square root of your TAM. If you look at your total addressable market, and let's say it's 10,000, and the square root of your TAM, 100 folks, should give you enough of an idea of whether you have solid product market fit. Now, your competition is also after those same 100 folks. So how quickly then in this land grab can I talk and have trust-based conversations with those 100 folks? For some, an average inside salesperson, field sales rep, they're going to make on average of 47 outbound phone calls a day. That's average, of which less than half of those are cold. So you're talking about dialing the phone about 20, 25 times to a total addressable market that you're trying to penetrate. And of those 25, you're probably going to talk with about 2 or 3 people a day and maybe convert one, maybe half, maybe 3/4. So how long will it take me to get to even product market validation?
Right.
And so what we see, and what Kevin and I continue to see, is that companies would burn through their Series A money, burn through their pre-A money, burn through their A money, and then when they'd get a big check, I got to hire a VP of sales. I got to hire an SVP of sales. I got to hire a whole bunch of biz dev folks. I got to hire a whole bunch of sales folks. Because those VCs, obviously, they're not bad people, but they want you to spend their money. They don't want to put their money to sleep. They want to put it to work. And so now you have a group of 50 biz dev folks all calling 20, 25 people a day. And so over time, you can see how they're come to Papa when you want a B round or a C round, and I'm just going to get more and more. And so we wanted to kind of stem that cycle and maybe just put a little bit of a pause on that traditional cycle for a lot of entrepreneurs by saying, listen, you need to get your product to market as quickly as possible and validate whether there's a fit. Good is the enemy of great. And we see companies trying to perfect their company. Right? We have a lot of companies here that they're just perfectionists and they want everything perfect. The logo's got to be just so, and the communication has to be just so. And I'm just a big dumb farm animal as a sales guy. Just release me and let me talk with a bunch of strangers and say, listen, we think we've discovered a real breakthrough that could completely eliminate the X or the Y that you're currently experiencing in your marketplace. Don't know this is a fit or not, but I tell you what, I'd love to grab maybe 10, 15 minutes of your time, talk with somebody a lot smarter than I am, and we can figure out. Right? I mean, that's basically the pitch. And that discovery call that happens after the cold call is a product in and of itself.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And what we see is a lot of entrepreneurs try to sell on that call, that discovery call. But that discovery call that happens after the cold call is truly just that, a discovery. The market is on fire, and your message is the water. And so what problem do you solve for those entrepreneurs that even if they don't buy your product, can be solved, they can be a little bit further educated in that discovery call? And so that's kind of the birth of this concept over a couple of beers, is to say, listen, I think we have this problem in the world of entrepreneurs and A-round, pre-seed, pre-chasm companies, and what can we do to address it?
Wow, that's fascinating.
When you're bringing students in, what sort of resistance do you get with, understanding, first of all, understanding the mission, second of all, understanding the science that you're talking about and what's expected of them? Because I would imagine it's all new.
Sure.
Obviously, they've been doing mostly classwork, other than maybe a job here or there, and so this becomes something big. And
it's new, right? I mentioned for both of you, when you would hire intern Sean or you, Chris, right? Let's say a marketing intern out of U of A or a political science intern out of ASU or DC or wherever, is they would probably already know a little bit of what's expected from a curriculum. Hey, digital marketing campaign, I learned about that in school. Hey, political science, I know how this race was won and fought. I know what messaging works or not. But in sales, oftentimes there is a little bit of an aversion that I've got to pick up the phone and I've got to talk to people. Shouldn't there be an easier way? There's got to be a shortcut.
Yeah.
After 60, 70 years of direct phone outreach, certainly somebody's come up with something, and I think I can be the guy or the gal that can come up with something, Chris and Sean, that I'm just not going to pick up the phone. I'm going to start sending emails, or I'm going to do a LinkedIn campaign, or I'm going to show these guys that I can talk to more people than just making me pick up the phone and talk to them. And so we always want to embrace those rogue elements, right? I think folks who are rule breakers, like lastborns, right, are notorious rule breakers. And they're the funny ones. They're the majority of the comedians. But you need a healthy amount of firstborns on your team as well to say, okay, first do step A, check. Then do step B, okay, check. And step C. Thirdborns are always like, how do I get to Q, and how do I get to T, and how do I just get to... So if you have this kind of nice amalgam, this cocktail of different personalities, they kind of keep each other honest as they move forward. But we got to find their why more than anything else of what they're looking for when they graduate, or when they're a junior or senior, as we hire a lot of students here today.
Well, I'm guessing you have a pretty healthy churn of kids that come in and out, because some probably don't.
So far, no, we haven't.
Really?
No, we've had one who left in the 10 months we've done this, and she is going to get her teacher certification. So other than that, I probably just jinxed myself, depending on when this comes out. But no, we start with the I think what all of our mentors said, hire slow and kind of fire fast, and we haven't had to fire fast at all. But the hire slow process is. We always tell them this same story. It's an oldie but a goodie. I'm sure all of our mentors said this. Is a guy walks past a construction site and he sees 5 people laying brick, okay? And goes to the first guy and say, hey, what are you doing? And he's like, making $6 an hour. He goes to the second guy, hey, what are you doing? He's like, building a wall. Goes to the third guy, what are you doing? He's like, laying brick, man. And goes to the fourth guy, what are you doing? He's like, I'm building a cathedral. Then he goes to the fifth guy, what are you doing? He's like, I'm saving men's souls. Now, they're all doing the same job, right? But the fourth and the fifth guy or gal, they're probably going to pay a little bit more attention to detail and see a piece of paper on the floor and picking it up and say, I noticed Chris was a little down today. Hey, boss, you may want to, grab Chris for a beer because I think his dog died, or. And so those folks who want to save men's souls and build a cathedral are the ones that you're after. But as I think you guys can attest from hiring so many folks in your career, is that, how do you flush that out? How do you identify that early on? And one of the easy ways, I don't think we have a foolproof way, is we do 2 things. Number one, we give them homework assignments. I just give them a book, a little small book, like the size of Who Moved My Cheese. It's either The War of Art or Turning Pro. And say, hey, read this overnight. If you can't sleep and you toss and you turn and you can't help but think about this place, give us a call, because we probably have something more to talk about. If you go home and you sleep like a baby and you never think about this place and it's in your rear view, then either way, you have an idea. That's number one. Number 2 is we take a water bottle, right? Like maybe just a little bit left, and we put it on their floor next to their chair where they're going to come in the interview. And if they come in, and if they pick up that water bottle on their way out and throw it out, like, oh, so somebody just naturally going to pick up a water bottle and throw it out, then have somebody who kind of sees the world and has a situational awareness of making it, kind of what you do at Uncommon Road. Making it, is it better? I'll leave the place a little bit better than how I found it.
Yeah. And
little piece of paper, something obvious, not a $20 bill or something like that, but something obvious where clearly that doesn't belong there, and then see what they do with it. And most of the folks walk right by.
Yeah.
But you get those occasional students that are saying, oh, is this yours? And so then And that's kind of the first seat.
Fascinating.
How did you get connected with Kevin?
2 really good friends of mine work with Kevin at Journeyage, which is another great company here at GCU. And one of them is Roz Yoloff, who Roz is the CTO and the co-founder of Journeyage. And Roz and I worked together at a company called 41st Parameter, which is a fraud company that we built up and started around our kitchen table. And Roz came over from Israel, not knowing much English, and with his kids, and helped us start 41st Parameter, and we eventually sold that to Experian. And Derek Kinzer runs marketing for Journeyage. And Kevin was at a Christmas party this past year or so, in 2019, and he said, "Hey, I'm thinking about putting a band together of a couple of folks who want to run some incubator, accelerator type of movement. And do you know anybody?" And Roz and Derek both said, "You need to talk with Corey." And so Kevin and I met a little bit over a year ago, and our philosophies, I think, were relatively aligned. And so far, 12 months later, we're still doing this.
It's great.
It's meant to be.
Was a little bit different from your previous experiences, which are lengthy. We don't have all time to go through all of them, but coming into an academic environment and a place that, let's face it, a year ago, entering COVID, this place shut down.
Right.
iOffice right across from you, and I didn't see that office for at least 6 months. I really didn't come in. So did that give you a little apprehension, number one, the COVID shift, number two, just being in a new environment, academically speaking? And
that's a great question, Chris. This is all new for me.
Yeah.
Being in an environment like this where there's so many top shelf entrepreneurs within arm's reach to say, "Hey, I think I'm screwing up here. What should I do here? Hey, am I seeing this right? What are you hearing? What am I screwing up on? Hey, look at my numbers." And so just to have that accessible is something that's new versus picking up the phone or sending an email or grabbing your mentors. So that's been great. The pipeline of the talent that comes in this place has been something that has really been staggering. I did not expect that. I've had brothers that go to ASU and Barrett. Right, my two sons go to ASU Barrett. I'm from the West. Went through to an okay 7 years of community college. Now I went to university back there, and so I assumed that to your earlier point, Sean, that a lot of colleges are pretty much the same, and the talent pool that we're able to to grab students for positions like this are pretty much the same, and I was not expecting, probably you guys probably comment on that too, that the level of just good stock that these kids come from. Great parents, great families, great aspirations. The professors, the teachers here clearly mold these folks into great, not just great smart citizens, but great entrepreneurs. One of my mentors always said, "Listen, Corey, when you," because I have 8 children, right? So I could probably fund a wing here or something like that at GCU. Maybe they name a business school after me. But they said, "Listen, do you want to get your kids into Harvard or you want to get them to heaven?" Right? So when you choose where you want to send your kids, just be sure that you don't send them away. They get an education, but they lose their soul.
Sure.
And I think that just been very pleasantly surprised with the students that we've had to help build the foundation of this thing, how true they are to live in their faith, and especially in this world that we live in today.
It's interesting that you say that, because I've heard this several times from people outside of GCU who run businesses, especially in the hospitality business. Mm-hmm. Restaurateurs or hotel owners or what have you, and to a person, when they hire a GCU student, it's the feedback that I hear, just random feedback, is, "Oh, they're my best employees."
Where's that come from?
They show up on time. Yeah. They know what they're supposed to be doing. They work hard. I don't get any complaints, and their spirit is just off the charts and for the work, mm-hmm. and to a T. And so this is a special place.
But is it nurture or nature, do you think, or a little bit of both around here?
I think it's probably a little bit of both. You have to be coming from a place where you want that, where you want to be pursuing God, mm-hmm. pursuing something better than yourself.
Sure.
And you want to be in an environment where that's welcomed, where that's encouraged, where that's part of the DNA, and GCU has developed that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the work that you're doing, I mean, everyone over there has a great spirit. So it doesn't really surprise me you haven't lost anyone, because everyone there is, they're all rowing from the same playbook.
Yeah.
Singing from the same playbook, rowing the same oar. So it's I'm mixing my metaphors, sorry. But it's a special thing, and you don't see it in many places.
No, it's been great to see, and we certainly will continue to hire more and more of them. So Robert, if you're listening, put me down for at least another dozen. So.
Yeah, well, we interviewed Robert a couple weeks ago, and he's now on recruiting trails for everything that's going on here, both on the business side. He says he's got like 30 companies, and then he's got students who want to pour in here.
Sure.
He believes like within the next year they could have over 1,000 students hired into companies, which completely changes the dynamic of higher education in terms of, you don't just go to college just to sit in a dorm and go to class all the time and maybe hopefully kind of get a job afterwards. Your job is actually to train yourself up while you're here, and this is a perfect environment for that.
Well, and I think with certainly the three of us and the collective group around here is we're also, the reciprocal effect is to help revitalize the West Valley here. And if we can plant the seeds where these future entrepreneurs realize I can build a pretty incredible company here in the West Valley. I don't have to go to Scottsdale. I don't have to go to Tempe. I could do it right here with the talent pool that continually will yield a great level of thinking and effort. Then why move?
Yeah.
I can make this my home.
That's a great point. And we talked a little bit about that with Robert, that this can be a transformative situation for Maryville, for this area. I mean, it would be pretty remarkable. Nothing else has worked so far.
Well, the Brewers would argue that Maryville's worked for them. So, so far.
Well, this has been fascinating. We're going to want you back, because as we have others come in, we're going to want to hear about what's going on, the growth, and then also talk more about your personal story.
Sure.
Because I think that's going to be of interest. Right?
Yeah, to my mom. That's it.
to the one person who's
we'll
listening.
send her a direct link.
That's right.
We've got 3 people
right?
listening.
I see. I am curious though, and I'll let you, is the title of the podcast. I'm curious. I talked to you before we jumped on, but talk a little bit about that and kind of what the mission is. Because I really thought that was compelling enough, and I'm sure you can read it on the marketing messaging, et cetera. But kind of the why behind what's your cathedral?
This on us?
Yeah, a little bit. He's definitely flipping this on
but just the cathedral and the saving men's souls about the podcast itself.
Well, I mean, we, in terms of the name of the podcast, I mean, it's an ode really to our past and things that we've done in our past that we're not ashamed of by any stretch of the imagination. I was the CEO of a very large beer distribution company that sold 5 years ago today. Today.
Oh, happy anniversary.
And actually closed 5 years ago yesterday, but the big announcement happened.
That was your parole date, 5 years ago.
Flipped today. So, but so I sold a lot of light beer. Sold a lot of light beer. Introduced Michelob Ultra to the state of Arizona. It was the #1 test market. Those type of things. So,
but Grand Canyon is a dry campus, though. Correct?
Yeah, of course. Well, except for the cafe across the way.
Gotcha. Okay, but ASU appreciates everything in U of A that you've done.
That we've contributed. And NAU, of course. But and then with Sean, at one point in Sean's life, and he can speak to this, he was deemed the prince or the king of dark money for raising an inordinate.
He sold a lot of light beer. I spent a lot of dark money.
He spent a lot of dark money.
All right.
So, but part of the title is, these are part of our past, but we're not bound to our past.
Got it.
Right? That who we are today is different than we were 5 years ago. And our past do not define us while walking with God.
Sure.
And so that's why our other tagline is faith, freedom, and free enterprise. And we're just hoping to elevate the discussion in those 3 areas.
Sure.
Have some really great folks like you as part of the podcast, and that are working hard in those three areas, in areas of faith, freedom, and free enterprise. And we want conflicting views with ours and our worldview, because we know that we don't have all the answers, but we also see people doing some amazing work in a world right now that is crying out for lack of a better word, unity, but togetherness, for faith, and we're just hoping to elevate the discussion.
But you guys don't
bring attention to the great things that are happening that would people have no idea. I mean, I didn't have any idea about what was happening here until just a few months ago, and it was like, this is amazing. We need to be talking about it. And Robert was, gracious enough to allow us to host the podcast here, but that gives us a chance to interact with you and others to say, hey, this is a great story. Let's get it out there. Maybe that's going to bring, a higher level of thinking for everybody.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's a testament to, you can be incredibly successful in politics and in marketing and beverage and distribution, and not sell your soul, and not sit on a beach somewhere drinking Mai Tais. That, okay, part of that servant's heart that you both had of being in politics and being in distribution and hiring as many people as you did over the years, right, is also that doesn't end just because the company changes hands, or because your candidate didn't necessarily have the result they wanted. Is it is truly just a different life of purpose. It is about building those cathedrals and those saving men's souls. So I like that.
Well said.
Good.
We should have him pitching for us, obviously.
Obviously. I mean, what are we doing?
Thank you.
Great, absolutely. Thanks for
Maybe we
having
can go
me.
on his podcast.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that's right.
You want to talk about lowering this?
Yeah, that would
We talk about market dominance, marketdominanceguys.com. So
that would tank the entire thing.
Yeah.
there you go. Beautiful. All right,
Well, we'll
Kents.
have you back.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Corey. Really appreciate it.
You got it.